Bellona. This shall be a day long remembered.
Hello there everybody, you're the idiot, I'm SuperSonicBlur, and welcome to the next God Guide kit explanation and build for Bellona. Having seen how the Gauntlet went, I theorize we're going to be seeing a lot of Bellona for a while, since Deathwalker quite literally became Bellona. Like, we've had Bellona when she first sort of came out, like Season 2 Worlds, it was like Bellona, Xingqian, that kind of became a thing. Then she kind of dipped away, and then Deathwalker came back and literally never lost on her. So, yeah, we're going to see a lot of Bellona. And so, I thought I would cover Bellona. Not necessarily because she is super strong, but because there are a lot of intricacies to her kit, and there are a lot of different viable build paths for her, and I want you guys to be able to go and experiment with her, not just go, well, Deathwalker did it, so I'm going to do exactly what Deathwalker did. I'm going to build exactly how Deathwalker built. Hey, why isn't this working for me? Because, honestly, a lot of the times it may not work for you. You're not Deathwalker. Whilst being able to build like Deathwalker is doable, it's not always possible to be in that situation. A lot of the time, what Deathwalker did was incredibly situational, so I want to make sure that you guys can be just as situationally aware with Bellona. As I've seen in some previous videos, or as I've said in some previous videos, have a look here on the screen now. You're going to find each of the 3 different sections along with a timestamp. So if there's only one area in this that particularly interests you, then you can jump right ahead of it. Now though, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go over the kit explanation for Bellona. Okay, so Bellona's passive is called Master of War. Upon giving or receiving hits from basic attacks, Bellona gains protections and movement speeds for 4 seconds, maxing at 5 stacks. This lasts for, as said, 4 seconds. You gain 4 protections and 3% movement speed per stack. What the hell does that actually mean? Well, first of all, this means that she really likes to be in the thick of things in a fight. She likes taking damage from basic attacks. She likes brawling. She really likes working with the basic attacks and using them. It makes her tankier and it makes her faster. This is what's important, which means that early, she can be a lot tankier than you think, and she can also be a lot faster than you think as well. This thing can give 12% movement speed and 16 protections. 20 protections and 15% movement speed. It's actually 5 stacks. So the way that you can see this is you're going to see just above her is a passive stack. 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5. And as you can see, my movement speed and protections have increased for that duration, and then it goes back down. So what does this mean? This means that very early, she's very, very tanky, but also as well, this means that when she's trading, she can chase down when people are like, all right, I've had enough of basic attacking you. Could you stop following me? Wait, stop basic attacking me. Stop, please. I want to leave now. And so, Bellona is very good at fighting with her basic attacks. She really likes taking those trades early, even against some of the early aggressive gods, like someone like an Osiris. She will still quite happily box them to some extent. So that's pretty strong. Her one is called Shield Bash. Bellona dashes forward and bashes with her shield, hence the name Shield Bash, dealing damage and slowing enemies. Bellona gains 1 stack of block for each enemy god hit. Block absorbs all damage from a single basic attack and reflects a proportion of this back in damage around her. This is really useful for when she's trading early, because every so often she'll just ignore a basic attack and reflect a percentage of it back, 30%. So this means that when she's trading early, she's not only ignoring one of their basic attacks, but she's dealing the damage back, and she's slowing them. And as well, she does a bit of damage as well. And she has her passive, so she's getting that away. So already, she's doing a lot just with Shield Bash. Shield Bash doesn't have the longest range or duration dash. It's a very short dash. It's about 20 units in range, or yeah, it's about 20 units in range. So as a result, it's really not useful for like getting away too far. It can still be useful, but it's that cone at the end that's super useful. And what you'll see is there. Now this stack down here is called block. Every 3 basic attacks I apply, I get a new block stack. So if I then get hit by something, 3 times I will ignore basic attacks as long as I have the shield up, which is important. This is another thing that Bellona has that's in her kit that they don't necessarily say. Well, they do say for a bit. It's actually the second part here, which I haven't yet read. Bellona then makes basic attacks with her sword and shield until out of combat, and every 3 successful basic attacks she gains another stack of block, a max 3. So this is really strong. as you can see, look at that. So look at this. He'll just hit me. Rah, please, come on, hit me. But yeah, basically it gets me block stacks. That's pretty damn awesome. So not only does she get the block stacks from things, but she also then can keep getting block stacks. So that makes her trades very, very, very strong, which is pretty damn awesome. Also as well, I believe her basic attack progressions change depending on which stand she's in. Just keep that in mind, it's slightly different. Now, her 2 is called Bludgeon. Bellona summons a hammer and spins, hitting every enemy around her and then smashing forward in an overhand attack. Each enemy god hit in the spin increases the damage of the overhand attack by 25% per enemy god hit. Bellona then will make basic attacks with her hammer until out of combat. Every hammer attack hits all enemies in melee range. However, you will only have 33% lifesteal capabilities with this. So that's important. However, the hammer does some really interesting things. First of all, I want you to take note of something important. That did 59 damage. That's not a lot. Remember, and this is super, super important, especially in the lane. If you can tag your opponent, your lane opponent with this, 1, not only will you group up the minions, but 2, you do 25% more damage. That's pretty good. Also as well, these are the basic attacks you'll use. You get cleave on these, which is just, or it has an area. This procs things like Death's Toll, because Death's Toll is not lifesteal and is instead healing per basic attack. This means that you instead will just get those 3 things. This makes Bellona have such strong sustain in the lane. That's just from Death's Toll. Now speaking about sustain, Bellona's 3 is called Scourge. With a 55 range in a line, Bellona summons a Scourge, dealing damage to all enemies in a line. Enemies hit are disarmed and cannot basic attack. Bellona will now make basic attacks with a Scourge until out of combat, which has an extended range of +4, and every 3rd attack successfully hit on an enemy will heal Bellona for up to 50. The disarm duration could be 2.2 seconds, and the damage is pretty decent. Now, what the hell does this mean? Well, what this means is that Bellona can do this. Stop doing things right now. And then heals. She'll heal, and she'll heal, and she'll heal, and it's great. You don't know how great it is? Pretty damn great. This becomes a lane clear and also sustain option for her in the lane if she gets pressured hard. Also as well, if you have an enemy who can knock you out of your 2 or disrupt it, you can start leveling this and clear the wave through that instead. Bellona is insane in, like, almost all matchups. So that's a thing. Now, Bellona's ultimate is called Eagle's Rally. Eagle plants a Roman flag, granting protections and increased physical power to allied gods. Enemies directly under where the flag is placed take damage and are stunned for 1 second. The flag duration lasting up to 10 seconds is insane, especially if you are going in for, say, a fire giant, or you're going in for a, what is it? You're going in for, like, a siege. Whatever it is, you want to fight somewhere, Eagles Rally down. 6 seconds of getting 15 protections, 10 physical power, and doing 100 damage and stunning someone. That's pretty good. Also as well, it's got a pretty decent range on it. And look at the size of this thing. Do I even need to say that this thing has a huge area? That's pretty good. Like, and also the area that it lands, look how far away I can be. That's pretty good. Now, as you can see, all the way around here, I get increased protections and physical power. That's pretty good. That's really pretty good. So you can already, especially, now the only thing here, annoyingly, is it is physical power. So it does suck for, like, if you have a mage in mid, they can't be, like, super useful with that. But you shove an ADC onto that, that's pretty good. You have a jungler who's physical, that's pretty good for them. Basically, this creates an area where you don't want to be fighting if you know that if the enemy sees that there's Eagles Rally. They're like, I don't want to fight around here. Like, they're going to be tankier, and as well, they're going to get, you know, they're going to have to be tankier and do more damage to us. Psh, I don't want to fight in that. So already you have a huge zoning tool in her kit. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, as I alluded to earlier, when it comes to laning with Bellona all comes down to how well you can play the hammer. If you are in a mirror, in casual, And you have one Bellona who procs the hammer swing onto the Bellona, and another one who doesn't. Whoever hit that hammer swing and then landed the hammer damage will clear the wave first and will get an advantage in that lane that they can snowball almost indefinitely out of control. That is huge. Whenever you are clearing the wave, wherever possible, if you can, make sure you swing and then do that. You can move a little bit around in this, so you want to try and... the easiest way I can is actually try and show you on a wave. So I will try and show you on a wave as best I can. But either way, you have to see this. You absolutely have to see just how you can do this. And it's so important learning how to hit this hammer. Learning how to hit the hammer is Bellona's bread and butter. You absolutely have to know how to do this. And I will be honest... Even I can still mess this up. Or I have still messed this up. I don't just say like, oh, even I can mess this up and I'm amazing. No, I have messed this up. I'll completely admit I have completely screwed this ability up. So whatever you do, you want to swing. You want to try and swing on everything as best you can. And see there how I missed 2 of those back minions? Yeah, that sucks, but I still get to clear most of them. The reason why you don't want to necessarily hit the back minions with the front piece of the swing is because you want to try and make sure that you are tagging the opponent with it. What's also important as well is this doesn't just hit the area, it's swing round and then do it. So what you can do is, if you have the situation, is you can go forwards, backwards, forwards, and that will go, the backline gets hit with the swing, you then slam down on the archers do the most damage in the wave, so you can clear those out. Also, they're squishiest, meaning that you get an advantage in the lane, which is important. So I will try and show you as best I can on a wave when it just comes in. This is quintessentially just what you do when there are no, enemies in the lane. No, don't come over here. Oh, this sucks. I accidentally pulled part of the wave. But what you want to do is swing around and do that. You want to make sure that you hit them all if possible, but if not, make sure you're just tagging your opponent and the melee minions. Make sure that you destroy the backline if you can. But other than that, it's pretty simple. If you're... Now, what's important as well is, as I said earlier, if you're against a lane opponent who can knock you out of this, you can get knocked out of that, and it sucks. Now, you do still have the basic AoEs that cleave, which, while very strong, doesn't necessarily help you with the wave too much. So you can get screwed out a little bit by doing that. That being said, if you get, like, Hark Bludgeoned, Amaterasu Silence, those kind of things, it's not the worst. You can still use your AoE basics. However, if you need to, you can use Scourge. Now, why you're using Scourge is because whilst this doesn't necessarily do the most damage, if you have a look here, you've got Spin 90 plus, or, you know, it does 100 base damage here, which is pretty good. 80 damage on Scourge level 1 isn't bad once you get that after getting Bludgeoned, because you'll get Bludgeoned first no matter what. But you start getting that, you can see, 220 burst damage. If you're only doing 150 on the spin, if that, then you're better off using Scourge. And also as well, you can heal through it, and also as well, you can disarm your opponent, so that's pretty useful. So you can go into Scourge if needed, if you're having a bit of an awkward situation. Normally though, you'll find that the Bludgeon, the AoE swings are good enough, but if you really are having a hard time, you can use Scourge. That being said, Bludgeon still has AoE, which just clears the lane insane. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, now that we have gone over the kit for Bellona, it's time to go over a build. Okay then, so builds for Bellona. Bellona is really, really interesting because there are so many viable options that you can go for on Bellona. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the way the Deathwalker plays her. I'm going to talk about the Deathwalker build. I'm going to go over the majority of it and the ideas behind it. It's usually only the first sort of 3 to 4 items that truly matter with it. The rest of it comes down to playstyle with it, and that's why I want to talk about it first. First thing you do is you're going to want Death Toll. Death Toll is stupid good. You want Teleport Glyph. You're in the solo lane. There's really not any point not going for it. Then you get Boots. Boots 1... 4 health potions, 4 multi potions. If you want to go stupidly sustain, what you can do is this. This is so much sustain. I've seen Cyclone Spin do this. This is the, I do not need mana to clear the wave. I am just going to destroy you with that. This works mostly for someone like Osiris, who has basic attacks that cleave naturally in his kit. Erlang Shen can kind of use this with it in his kit, so it's viable for him. Other than that, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. You can go for it on someone like Nike as well if you're just conceding the early game, but she is still kind of mana hungry. So the usual thing you're going to see is something like this. This is pretty solid, and this is pretty standard. After this, you're going to finish Boots. boots, you get warrior tabby. It's useful to have warrior tabby. You can go ninja tabby. There's options and it's viable to do. You get mana on it, which is nice. You get physical power on it, which is nice. You get attack speed, which Bellona really uses as well anyway. So you can make an argument for absolutely either of these, whichever you feel most comfortable. Usually you'll go for warrior tabby because when it gets to the later stages in the game, you aren't necessarily going to be able to basic attack that much in the fight. You're more going to be using your abilities for control more so than anything else. So I go for warrior tabby. The next thing you buy is Mark of the Vanguard. Why the hell do you buy Mark of the Vanguard? Well, it's simple. 100 health, 10 physical protection. It's reasonably nice for being tankier in the lane. It helps you when you do proc the, or when you do hit the enemy solo laner, the minions then get aggro to you. You don't like that. You take damage from the creep wave, so this helps mitigate a fair amount of that. Also as well, because of the next item in the build is so expensive and not the best stat-wise, this helps make up for that. This adds 100 health, 10 protections, and the mitigation kind of carries you through that section. So you pick this up. This lets you be a bully in the lane really, really hard. Now, the next item that you pick up, the next item is one that kind of, I don't know. It's iffy for me, but I'll go over the reasoning for it. It's Mystical Mail. Yes, this item is 2,700 gold. It is expensive as all hell. So if you're getting this, then the reason you're getting this is because your team is ahead, you are snowballing ahead, or you feel that you can really pressure enough to really get that slow thing. Because a lot of this is in health, it's not the protections. Hence why the physical protection from this and the mitigation is where you're using the most use from this. So you get Mystical Mail. Where do you get it? Well, it's another 40 protections and 300 health is nice, but the magical proc just helps in lane. It means that you clear slightly faster. It also means that you're just genuinely doing damage in the middle of the fight. Bellona wants to be in the middle of a fight. So picking up Mystical Mail allows her to just do this AoE damage without doing anything at all. So that's pretty damn useful. So getting that Mystical Mail, it's offset by this. So now you'll see you get this pulse and it procs out 25 damage just in an air, or 40 damage in a unit of 25. It also now tells you where roughly 25 range is, so that's pretty useful. Where is 20? Like, I'm just gonna do this. I just want to see how far it is. It's about there-ish. It's about the distance of the dash. Yeah, it's the distance of the dash. All right, then. So, yeah, 25 units. It's slightly shorter than the range would have you believe. Also, as well, the pulse thing is just a visualization. I do not believe that it's, yeah, as you can see, look at when the pulse is, look at when that is. There are no way are they in sync. So do not believe that that is how it works. It's just to let you know, hey, they have Mystical Mail. So that's what you do. You get that every second, 40 magical damage is nice. It also means that if you are still in the laning phase or coming out of it, you really start to bully someone in lane because they just can't fight you. Like, they cannot fight you at all with this. Next up, you want to look at some magical defense. Now, here's where I'm going to talk more about Deathwalker's build and playstyle. Sometimes we'll see things like Hide of the Urchin. Hide of the Urchin is very, very good, but only if you're going to get those stacks. So with this, you're looking to rotate, you're looking to put pressure, you're looking to team fight, you're looking to be involved with the team. So as a result, you are using this item to get you very, very tanky. It's not great early in terms of its stat line, but if you can get it stacked early, it's amazing. Other viable options are things like Spirit's Robe. Spirit's Robe gives you more physical, magical, cooldown reduction, and crowd control reduction. It's great. At this point in the build, it's more about team fighting and things like that than necessarily just, I need magical defense, so I will build a magical defense item. So Hide of the Urchin was a very, very nice pickup onto that. At this point, you do want to get a pure magical defense item. The item which we see a fair bit of is things like Bulwark of Hope. Very, very nice. Bit more health. Chunky magical protections is good. Pestilence is an option if you need it against healers. You could go, if you want to get the Heartwood Amulet, a lot of the times you can see that on for supports. Instead of making them get this, this means that they can go into the Thebes. Instead of going for Heartwood Amulet, this in turn means that the team gets more protections overall because the support doesn't have to worry about thinking, right, they want to get Thebes first, but then they need to get Sovereignty or Thebes. This just alleviates it, like, hey, don't worry about it. I'll get it. You get something else. So you can get that. Really, it's kind of up to you. Genji's Guard is an item. It's all there. Again, you can get Spirit's Robe for protections, although at this point I really would recommend getting a purely magical defense item. So the item I'm going to get is going to be Bulwark of Hope, just because it's a generic one. Next item you're going to want to get is one which is just Frostbound. It's just too good. Bellona uses so much with basic attacks. Frostbound Hammer just works so well with her. It's a lot of protections. Or a lot of health to go with your protections. It's just so strong. Final item is going to be things like Mantle of Discord or Spirit's Robe. Both of those work phenomenally well with her. If you don't want to get that and you don't want things like Frostbound Hammer, then instead you'll get one of these items in that protection. And then last item is just Stone of Gaia. Now, my reason for staying Stone of Gaia is because you have so much health. This gives you so much regen for sustain. This kind of a build is more if you don't have sustain, but you need to take poke. This, as I've said, is more about your playstyle when you're doing this. So as you can see, we have a very tanky frontliney Bellona. She does a fairly nice amount, but there are so many viable options that you can say with her. If you don't want to pick up the Mystical Mail, then you can go for the standard build. Instead of this, you can still pick up Mark of the Vanguard if you want. It's still perfectly fine, but you can go for Breastplate of Valor or a Hide of the Nemean Lion. Either way is absolutely fine. Bellona doesn't necessarily need CDR just because of the fact that her ult is on a shorter cooldown already. So that's pretty damn useful. So you can get that. You could then go for your Bulwark of Hope or Pestilence or whatever. Then after that, you'd pick up something like Spirit's Robe. You can go Spirit's Robe earlier. It's not a bad item. You can get that. Then your last two items, you get like a Frostbound Hammer. And then if they've got slows, you can go for like a Winged Blade. You know, there's so many viable options. And this is why I really try and stick away from solo laners for builds, because there's just like, hey, you need to know what you're up against and what you need to counter build. So, you know, I can give you a generic build. If you want something generic, this will do just fine. I mean, what you're doing here is high physical, high magical, cooldown reduction, health, and movement speed. Like, that's what this build has entail, is a good standard build for it. The reason why you don't necessarily see things like Wing Blades on Bellona is because she has a passive giving her that 15% movement speed already. So she doesn't necessarily need it. In terms of second relics, Meditation's viable. There's Meditation Cloak, Phantom Veil if you need it. There's Cursed Onk, though it's not really that useful right now. Sprint if you need it. I wouldn't recommend a Blink, you're not really going to use it. Shield of Thorns is fantastic. So useful for going with her, because it means it's like, hey, I am all up in your face. You have to do damage to me, and you're going to suffer for doing damage to me. So Bellona is not necessarily about a build, it's about a playstyle and build that you have to put in combination with it. So when you look at Deathwalker and his build, it's not just Deathwalker's build that's making him win this, it's Deathwalker's playstyle and how he's playing with the team. That's so important with that. You see this Mystical Mail come out because he's dominating the early game, or he's going even with the early game, so this pushes him ahead with it. He's rotating these fights, his team is doing fine, he's rotating these fights and being a huge impact for it. So that Mystical Mail comes in useful. He's getting that Hide of the Urchin because he knows he's going to be rotating and he's going to be able to use it in a team. If you're getting Hide of the Urchin, you have to rotate for it. You absolutely have to. So Bellona, in terms of builds, I know this hasn't been the most, you just buy this. Here's the reasons why. It's because you need to think. What are you up against? What do you need to build into? Would it be worth buying certain items for it? Items that I would definitely generally recommend: Spirit's Robe, Mark of the Vanguard, and Frostbound Hammer. The boots, it's up to you. If you find working with Ninja Tabby helps you out more, then by all means you can go for it. It helps clear the wave, then so be it. It also gives you a bit of mana. So it is entirely up to you. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, now that we've gone over sort of a build for Bellona, it's time to go over a leveling guide. Okay, so Bellona when it comes to a leveling guide. Now, yes, she can go into other roles. She can be a support, which is pretty useful. She's an okay support. I didn't touch on that, but she can go in jungle, but she's not the greatest. I'm going to talk about her for the solo lane because that's just her best role for it. Bellona, level 1, you need your wave clear. That's your 2. You need the 2, that's your wave clear. Why is that your wave clear? Because it does the most damage. Not only does it do the most damage, but also as well, you get the AoE basic attacks, which just do it. So as a result, it's just, there you go. Go with bludgeon. That's what you need. Level 2, this is where things get fun. Level 2, there's 2 mindsets. 1, you pick up Shield Bash. Why would I pick up Shield Bash? Well, this means that you can start really poking the enemy. And you can poke the enemy out. You can start taking more trades with them. It means that if you are up in the front line of the wave and against someone with AoE basic attacks, they will hit you and then they'll do the damage back and they'll take damage and you'll also hit the wave. It does a lot of really useful things. It means that you are very, very strong and aggressive with doing this. The other option is Scourge. Scourge is just haha, I do a little bit of damage and sustain if you're really getting your butt kicked. But honestly, you shouldn't be getting your butt kicked. If you're getting your butt kicked, it's because you've done something wrong, at which point then it's a gameplay style. So Shield Bash level 1, level 2, great. I love it. Like I said, this lets you be really aggressive. If you have someone on the other side of the lane who wants to fight you, you can fight them, and then you turn the tides on them. Like, you have a Ravana who wants to punch you in the face, you Shield Bash him and start swinging the sword at him. He don't like that no more. You have an Osiris swinging at you, then yeah, Shield Bash him. Yeah, he's going to still throw out his other abilities and stuff, but you can use Shield Bash, and it hurts them. Level 3, you'll want a second point in your clear. Unless, again, they can kind of knock you out of it. But even then, I'd still get a second point in the clear, honestly. Usually, second point in the clear is safest here. And, again, AoE basic attacks, it's useful to do. Level 4, you'll want the Scourge. This is the sustain a little bit if you really need it. It's also a bit of burst to be able to just reach that little bit further. And then level 5, like I said, it's obvious, Eagle's Rally. At this point, it's very, very simple. You get your ult whenever you can, and you get your bludgeon in between there. At this point, Scourge is probably the best bet. The reason I say Scourge is because this just lets you sustain more. If the enemy can now start fighting you, then you can do that. If the Shield Bash does pretty much everything you need it to do from level 1. Yeah, it increases the slow, but the initial slow is all you really need for it. So that's fine. Scourge just does more, and also getting it a lower cooldown is more useful. So we do that with Scourge. At this point, we get Rally Eagles Rally. There's no ifs, ands, or buts on that. It increases the protections, the damage, the physical power, and the duration. Stupid useful. You get that. Then, at this point, you can finish off the hammer. You may as well. It does a little bit more damage, which is useful. Or you can kind of leave it. But personally, finish off bludgeon. You're not support, so finish off bludgeon. After that, you get Scourge. And you keep getting Scourge. Get Eagle's Rally. Then get Scourge. The only reason that you would want to level Shield Bash outside of Scourge is if you know that they can't really get away from you and you can really abuse that slow. If you can really abuse that slow on Immobile Gods, then by all means do it. Otherwise, it's better to go with Scourge in my opinion. If you're going to go with support Bellona, then what you're going to want to look at is... Instead, you'll want to look at Shield Bash level 1. The reason you get Shield Bash level 1 is because it slows. This gets a lot of poke off. This also means that you can then not only hit part of the wave efficiently, but you can then start absorbing basic attacks, throwing them back at the enemies, putting damage out on them, and you can set up kill potential from that alone. After that, then you get things like Bludgeon, Scourge, Eagles Rally whenever you can. And just make sure you don't accidentally clear the wave. So either way, that pretty much does it for Bellona, guys. I know this has been a shorter video, and it's not necessarily been as explanatory as some of the other ones, but the reason for that is simply because there is so much to Bellona that's more just a case of you need to go and you need to find your playstyle with Bellona. Once you've got that, you need to think about how well that works with builds. Are you the kind of person who's looking for the general rule of thumb? You want to be in team fights, up in people's faces, specifically into the backline, zoning that out. You want to be the one zoning the backline more so than trying to peel for your backline. The reason why I say that is because you don't necessarily have the best tools for peeling outside of a disarm, which while useful, is only a disarm. They can still use abilities. And a stun, which, honestly, you want to use to try and leap into the backline and disrupt that. Hold your ult if you need to, but other than that, you just need to go and find your playstyle with her. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comment section down below if you have any other information that you guys have to share with Bellona, any builds that you guys have for Bellona, any sort of tips and tricks that you guys have. Remember, I do this for the community. I want to give you guys back stuff. So if we can all sort of pull this into one thing for the community, then it gives everyone somewhere where they can come and go like, hey, here's a load of information on Bellona from a bunch of different people. Be it, I need to ask someone for help on Bellona. Be it, here's some advice that I have as a Bellona. Whatever it is. Just in the comment section down below, let me know that. I do know that someone recently has asked for Fenrir. I will try and get to that, but I really do not play much of Fenrir. So I myself am going through the learning curve of going through what Fenrir is. So that's pretty fun. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comment section down below if there are any other gods that you want to see videos on. Like I said, I know there's a Fenrir. I will get to that when I can. My name has been SuperSonicBlur. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and favorite for more, and to share this stuff so people know that it exists. You guys have been a fantastic audience, and I shall see you all next time.